expanding our way of seeing how we connect English with culture and with other important um, components that as teachers we should consider when we are going to teach this second language. Before starting, I would like to go through some important housekeeping information. Muting microphones is important to minimize the background noise. And if you are going to speak, please try to unmute and mute once you complete. Asking question is important. If you have any question, you can go to the chat box and we'll be very happy to help you sharing the question, or at the end of the presentation, you can open your microphone. If you have any technical difficulties with audio problem, we suggest to log out and log in again because sometimes it's because of connectivity. This material or this session is being recorded and is going to be shared on Classroom, as well as some important material related to the seminar. And most importantly, remember that this is an environment where we can share, we can participate. We encourage you to actively participate in the discussion. If any question you have, your contribution is valuable. Thank you so much for being here. I don't know if Professor Marisol has any announcement before we pass on to Professor Cardenas.
Well, no announcements, really. Good morning, everyone. Well, I hope you have a nice trip today. And also just remember, to join the classroom if you have not done it. And if you have done it, please do your assignments. God bless you all. Have a nice trip. See you.
Thank you. Thank you. So thank you so much. And now we pass on Professor Rafael for the session. Welcome, Professor Rafael.
Oh, good morning. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to start sharing my screen in a minute. Okay, am I sharing right? Do you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
All right, wonderful. Very good. So, well, good morning, everybody. Good morning. I should tell you something important before we move on. So we're getting into the thicker part or thicker section in terms of cognitive reaction to this content. But, before I move on further into speech acts, which is what we were talking about yesterday, I must stress again the relationship between language and culture. It's very important that we review a little bit of those ideas. Many people still feel it's invasive for a language teacher to, ambitiously attempt to teach content of a cultural nature. And the reason is essentially because I feel many people feel that identity has a very heavy weight in everything we plan and everything we do. The reality is that without this cultural knowledge about how language, is used around our students, they're going to have the hardest time communicating outside of their culture, of their own culture. And the idea of learning a language is for a person to become competent, both in how they use the language and how they communicate values and emotions, and how they can connect with other people, regardless of the fact that you don't have this shared knowledge, this shared cultural knowledge. So, okay, we started this, understanding of cultural topics from very, very basic things such as kinesics and haptics that are connected to body movement and touch. We also dealt with proxemics at a given moment. Okay, there's this notion of personal and mental space that's very important. We move further then into somewhat more sophisticated features of language that do appear in order to communicate meaning, right? Such as paralinguistic use of language and proper intonation, rising and falling intonation, all of that, really aids in communication. Beyond that, then we moved into other areas such as then cultural variations. And up to this point, we've gotten to speech act theory. Speech act theory is very important because I think this is at the core of discourse analysis and conversation analysis, which I think are probably the most recent developments in terms of understanding how communication really occurs. Remember that research is intended to tell us the truth of what's really going on, and the way people build relationships and negotiate meaning is at the core of everything. This is really the cornerstone of the whole process. And culture has a very important role for the sake of people's communication and proper understanding. So with that preamble, I'm going to move on now into another important speech act. I'm going to be honest, speech act theory deserves a seminar by itself alone as a topic. Because as I was explaining and referring to Austin and Searle and other authors, locutionary, elocutionary, and perlocutionary aspects of communication. These areas, they're huge, okay? This theory was even, further enhanced by other authors. And now all of this information on assertives and commissives and so forth has flowed into other fields. Translation, interpretation, other technical areas have lent these concepts in order for them to grow further. So I should tell you that speech act theory is one field by itself. For instance, yesterday I started talking to you about invitations and pre-invitations. That's one of the better known ones. Today we're going to start with compliments. This is another important one. However, there's so many others, and this is information that deserves to be passed on and shared. Literature on the topic is out there, believe me, but it's immersed, in so many other fields. So please remember, discourse analysis and conversation analysis takes us a bit further, and also transcription of conversation, this kind of things. Very good. So okay, complaining. Okay, why is complaining difficult? Well, complaining is tension, and to some extent, this creates some conflict at some point, because what you do when you complain is you claim somebody's attention concerning something you care about, or you need some reparation, correction, some attention. So this is generally conflict oriented or caused by conflict. So we have to be very careful on how we use language. Here we're going to go through how it is, performed the proper way. There is, of course, social linguistics behind it about, complaining. Um, Many people don't even dare to complain because they just don't want this conflict. Some cultures, they won't complain. Just to give us an example, Japanese people, for example, over there, complaining is, so, look down on, or simply disregarded, because it's more important to keep harmony, okay, than to complain and tell people that something's not right. Generally, Japanese people won't complain. They're gonna look down, maybe look away, but this is, the Japanese way. In many other parts of the world, people will complain depending on the situation. Okay, one of the most common, uh, you know, ways of showing solidarity towards someone who's complaining is to tell them, I know, I know. Why I know? Well, that's putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. So every time you listen to a complaint, the least people expect to listen from you as some to reveal some politeness and some solidarity is the expression I know. So it's very good that you remember this, that when someone complains or they start preparing to complain, it's important. It's very important to tell them, I know, I know. At least this is going to let the person know that you're tuned to what they are communicating or trying to establish or talk about. Remaining silent during someone's complaint or preparation for a complaint, that's just not very nice, okay? So it's important that we bear this in mind, okay? Okay. In general, there are two kinds of complaints as they've been categorized through speech act theory. They're direct and indirect complaints, okay? Right? There's some very simple examples that we can, bring in and say, when something's direct, I tell the person, straight to them, like, could you be a little quieter? And then tell them why. No, I'm trying to sleep here, something like that. Or then complaining indirectly is talking about somebody. It's what people speak, but say like talking behind somebody's back. But sometimes this is the way it works. When you're uncomfortable, you have to let no one, air, air these feelings, and you get things like that. Well, she never cleans up after her, and then some question that will let the person know. You'll know if a person agrees or disagrees with you, like something like, "Mom, isn't that horrible?" So these kinds of things normally occur this way, but it's important to let the person know why you're complaining, not just complain and not without saying why. It's important to say why so that people know. So, okay, there are 3 steps that we're going to be showing here or exemplifying here based on theory concerning complaining. I'd like to say that we need to teach our students this skill of complaining because it's not performed anyway. It has a logic, and this progression is necessary for people to know that we're serious about what we're saying. First of all, comes an explanation or maybe a warning, okay? Then you start like giving some context, okay? So it may look like, for instance, I just came by to see if I could talk about my paper, okay? So this is important. Or something like, look, like there is something I want to talk to you about, remember our agreement? So that kind of thing is necessary before you start. So you have to prepare the person, right, about this serious topic you're going to talk about. Look, I don't want to be horrible about it, okay? And then you tell them, okay, that's the first thing, explanation of purpose. Then comes the actual complaint, the complaint then. So I think maybe the grade was a little too low, okay? Then you are telling the person what you think, right? Or I put a lot of time and effort in this, then you're complaining. I was kind of upset with my grade, whatever. Okay. A person needs to tell the part of the listener after, you know, warning or preparing the person. Then comes the actual complaint. Okay. And then you let the person know about what you don't feel right about. Then comes the third part, which is the request for a solution. Okay. Then it comes like, would you mind doing your share of the duties? Or I'd really like to find out about this because I'm hoping it won't happen again. Or something like, I presume your insurance will cover. Or I'd like to maybe set up a time when we can get together and discuss. So you see, you are talking to the person in terms of finding some resolution, okay, some solution, some repair. Okay, there must be that element also. This seems to be pretty simple, but normally we don't do it this way, right? What we do is either we remain silent, keep the grudge, or you know, you air it in an inappropriate way and tell a person like, oh, you know, this and that, without really being like, you know, you don't explain really what it is in detail that bothers you. So this is necessary. Speech Act theory states two important elements in a complaint. Okay, we, the use of we, or our. You know, why is that? Because you don't want to be a me person, like only me and you. No, what you try to do is you establish the rapport. Since you're complaining, you're going to establish this mutual, or, you know, joint issue, topic, whatever it is, debt, you know, due date, whatever. And the we lets the person know that this is something, you know, that they have to take some responsibility for. They need to assume responsibility for it. So complaining with a we is very important. It's like saying, I know. When someone complains and you remain silent, or you look at them and then you ask them more about that, then what you're doing is you're not really showing any solidarity. And concerning these ways of speaking, it's very important for a person to know that you can connect with the source of their situation, or of their emotion, of their negative emotion. So providing an I know, and then, you know, then that will soften up this stages, right? Person will prepare well, will give you a complaint, and then they may propose a resolution, then you'll keep on discussing. I know we have different point of view on this, so I hope we could sit down. So this is the way a good complaint goes, using some language, you know, forms that will make all this like a little bit less uncomfortable. Questioning also, you know, you may say something like, do you have a minute? Or maybe I feel this situation, and then you're not blaming the person directly, like something you did, okay? Such a thing. Okay. Now, there will always be either you know, a downgrader or an upgrader. Okay. What is the purpose of a downgrade? Downgrading is using we, for example, telling the person that this is something that it's mutual, that is not only me demanding something from you. Okay, that's a way. But there are more specific words that we could use, right? Such as a bit, maybe, okay, or it's just, are you somehow, all these words which are kind of in the gray area of telling, allowing the person to, free themselves from any blame that we want to, impose. If in case you're complaining, you're the one complaining. This will allow you to be a little bit friendlier. So if you want to soften your complaining, what you do is, well, I'm a bit confused about this situation, or this is to some extent confusing, or look, I'm maybe I don't think I don't really agree with what's going on concerning this. Maybe this is not right. Okay, this is the way you soften up, and people will not feel that you're pointing fingers towards them. Upgrading has to do with then when you really want to blame someone. This is the opposite. So you are like pretty upset, or probably you have complained before. Then you're going to use certain language that is going to help escalate the situation that you're telling the person. So this is absolutely outrageous, absolutely wrong, or absolutely well, it's a word that tells whoever listens to this that you are like very upset. You see, this is absolutely obnoxious, something like that. That's like harsh. You want a person to feel that you are not very happy at all. Then language such as I'm certain, then this is like I'm accusing you, okay, and this kinds of things. And then what will come is the acceptance of the problem, and so forth, right? Or probably not. Then you'll have to tell the person that you were not responsible or something like that. Now, there's some levels in complaining, and this is what makes it difficult sometimes, is that you could complain, on a severity scale, right? Some things will be least severe, others somewhat, to some extent, severe, right? You have some examples here, like the kitchen was clean and orderly when I left it last day or last week. You see, you are telling them, it's an observation. It's an observation about something, and you're not blaming the person immediately, but you're preparing them. Like, I'm going to talk to you about this topic. Or somewhat severe, like a little bit more severe could be, so look at these things all over the place, or there's a horrible dent in my car. Okay? These kinds of things, and you're telling the person that we have a problem. We have a problem. So directness and indirectness, again, play an important role here. Even though this is not culturally related, like as if a person's coming from a high context or low context, as we were talking before. Here, the more direct you are in what you are referring to, the more severe the complaint is, okay? So this is the scale. So more indirect, that's least severe. More direct is a lot more severe. And then you have also fairly severe and very severe. Look at this in red. You're inconsiderate. Now you're accusing the person. Oh, you should not postpone, okay? Concerning some health issue, very severe, or look at this mess, okay? So something like you borrowed this, okay, without my permission. Why did you do that? Why did you take my keys? Something like that, okay? So you're late again. Now I let you wait. I let you wait too. That kind of thing, you know, very severe. Person is really upset. Very severe, then it's like, you know, getting out of control and you are escalating it to the police. Now, let me have what you took. I'll call the police. So you better pay me now. So this is like you are complaining in a way that is going to bring consequences. Okay. There is this threatening aspect that goes into the complaining, and then your person's attacking someone, or you are attacking, or someone's attacking you. Okay. So this is the way it works. So I'm going to go back and refer, okay, once more. Remember, less severe complaints are indirect. Now, somewhat severe complaints are very direct. Then fairly severe is labeling, you know, using words such as inconsiderate or reckless or maybe irresponsible. But then severe is accusing the person, okay? You did this, okay? So because you are really putting the responsibility on the person's shoulder or on the person's part, you see? And then you use you at this level, fairly severe and severe. You, okay? Then here comes the threatening, okay? Is this easy? Of course not. Of course not. People have trouble doing this because you have to know how go about doing this. Otherwise, you will fail, you know, at either obtaining what you want or at explaining what the situation you're facing is like. Now we have some indirect complaints because indirectness is polite. Remember that you know, you could use. This is an interesting repertoire because it's not only for downgrading, but it's more like as it was labeled in one of these slides before, you depersonalize the problem. You don't make it personal, like you or what you did to me or that kind of thing. You know, you see here a lot of I and a lot of it's and this because you don't want to say like you or your mess is affecting me or your words or this is your problem. No, it is not fair. That's a way. Like it is not fair that I'm paying extra money for this, you know, and then you explain a little more. Or it's a shame that I have to go through all of this hassle after preparing myself for 15 days, something like that. Or well, you know, you could, you know, do it in a way that's referential like that. Well, it drives me crazy, or this is not my day, or no way, there's no way I feel okay about something, but I'm doing it from my perspective just for the person to know that I am not happy about something. Or you'll get this from someone who's not happy about something, okay? Uh, Anything they say is, I can stand, I can take it. So remember, using I helps ease the tension and complain indirectly. Probably you're complaining towards the person you're talking to, but you don't want to blame them. So it's probably the least severe kind, or you're making an observation. This is indirectness. You stick to the I, the it, and the this. But then when you want to make it severe or somewhat severe, more severe, then it's all you. Okay. and then you start labeling some behavior. You make very direct observations, okay? And you try to progress along the 3 steps, right? You prepare the person by providing some context. It's a bit of a history that you have to say, right? This is necessary, otherwise people will get it like, what? Are you crazy? No, you can accuse someone out of the blue, right? You have to first of all prepare this person with some preparation, referring to something that makes you uncomfortable, okay? And chances are, if a person is guilty for some situation, they will take the message. Then you will complain directly, or as directly as necessary. Then you won't be indirect anymore, and you refer to the situation. Then finally you propose some reparation or some solution. Now, this indirect complaints using this, it, and I, which are more like observations than anything. There's a repertoire also of ways for you to respond. There's specific names to the kinds of responses offered. Here we have a commiseration, which is like showing some agreement, in an attempt to make the speaker feel better. This is like, I know. So someone tells me something like, it's so bad that I have to work so hard all day, and then I get home and I have no dinner, for instance. Yeah, I know. Even though you're not aware of what the problem is, maybe it involves you, maybe it's his personal problem with his spouse or her spouse, then you'll show some solidarity. Some possible answers are like, well, so am I. I know what you mean. Yeah, all right. Or something like, no, he's just not a good teacher. This is solidarity. You don't do it because you really have an opinion on something, but you're making an observation in order for a person not to feel like they're all alone in their problem. Is this dishonest? Maybe it is, but this is the way politeness work. You tell people to some extent what they want to listen to. Okay? And we have to be aware of this. There is also no response or a switching of the topic altogether. Then if you're not interested in that topic, the person wants to talk to you even more because they're preparing the ground to fully complain. Then you change the topic like, oh, so you stayed at the hotel. Oh, okay. Well, I went there, or we like that place too. Or I got reservations. So you change the subject. Okay. Whatever it is a person is complaining about, you change the subject. And this is okay too. It's a way for you to handle complaining, right? Probably you don't like that. Maybe you do. Who knows? Or maybe, asking questions because telling them that you don't understand what it is that they want to talk to you about. Then you may ask a question like, oh, well, really? I think this and that. Or here we have like, his talk was so weak that I wonder how it got accepted for conference. Oh, really? I think he had a lot of useful things to say. So you have a different opinion about a conference presentation. Okay. And then you let them know that straight to the face. Maybe they won't like it. Maybe they will change the subject because they see that you don't share, this negative opinion, or maybe there is a contradiction. Like you don't even do your own writing. Yes, I do. Yes, I do, and you deny, any possible accusation or that sort of thing. Some other ways people deal with indirect complaints, which are like this, I, and it based, in which you make more indirect observations about something that makes you feel uncomfortable without being direct because it's not something as severe, or serious. You may joke or tease depending on who you're talking to. Okay, some people won't like this either. Look at these examples. So like I just opened this bag of chips and before I eaten even one, they were half gone. So it's like the bag is half empty. So you should pay a lot for a bag half full of air. So you're being a bit ironic here, telling the person that, well, they rip you off, right? Or yes, they should come in smaller bag. I feel ripped off. So let's write a letter to the chip master. It's like telling them like you don't take that very seriously, or this is not a serious matter, or it's not something you would complain about because you don't have to share with people's opinions all the time. Advice or lecture. Look at another example here, offering some advice that is possible. Personally, it's not my style, but this is the way some people talk. Look at this complaint. The person prepared, right? The story, like, an annoying thing happened to me. I took my bike into my bike in to be repaired to align the spokes. The allows job, now I have to find the receipt and take it back. Okay. Then someone would offer you advice like, you should have just bought a new wheel and not bother to fix it. So that could be a solution. Maybe the person won't like these answers because it's telling them that he or she doesn't have any knowledge. Probably some people just don't enjoy being told that they don't know something. Okay. So this is dangerous because this could create a situation. Okay. So this is the last I wanted to talk to you about complaining. Very quickly, I'm going to refer to the most important takeaway points from this section. In order to complain the right way, that's purposeful and meaningful, right? We explain what we're going to complain about. We prepare the ground, right? And let the person know that there is a situation here. Complain. Then you tell the person exactly what it is that it's not right. No, you don't like, that you expect to be, considered. Then you propose some solution or repair. Okay, this is the most important thing, that you progress using these 3 steps. This will make speaking or communicating a lot more effective. Some important downgraders are we and some questions, right? Okay, maybe some questions or preparing person for a question. This is important, especially the we element that allows a person know that there must be some level of solidarity, right? Then the use of downgraders and upgraders, depending on how serious or how affected you feel about something. Some indefinite words such as just, maybe, a bit, or somewhat, somehow, to some extent, all of these indefinite phrases and words allow the person know that something is not right, but you don't feel offended, or at least not personally. Then the upgrading, then it's labeling, right? Words that are like frightful, absolutely, or certain, and I know this for sure. This tells the person you are accusing. Then there is a severity scale, right? And it's a very indirect in the least severe and severe. But when it gets like very severe, then you will use you, right? You change to a you, and then you threaten at the very, high, at the highest level of your, of your complaint. Indirect complaining, is a good repertoire to, bear in mind also, because this is not accusing the person directly. You're not pointing fingers. You're using I, this, and it in your complaint at first. This lets the person know that you have a situation. Then there is commiseration, that you show some solidarity regardless of the fact that you may agree or disagree with the person's complaint. changing the topic, you asking a question, saying something different, or maybe, denying or contradicting what the person's telling you. So there are different strategies that we can use. Even jokes are possible, but I definitely consider, unless you know the person well, you shouldn't go down this path. Neither with lecturing someone, because I think this is kind of probably disrespectful towards some individuals and could create more difficulties, even more difficulties. Okay. We have another important topic concerning greetings, and I'm going to start talking about it right now. What is it that we need to know about greetings? Okay, many people say that when you greet a person says, "Hey, how are you? How are you?" Um, well, they want to explain they how they feel or what their lives are like. That's not the idea behind any of this. Okay, this is just like a form of politeness. It's just like to show some concerns. I see you and I know and I'd like to know more about you, but I don't really want to know about you right now because I'm in the middle of something or I'm busy. Many people say that why is it that American people, for example, say how are you and they don't mean it. Okay, they don't want to talk to you about how you feel. That's not the point of a how are you, which is it's just a courtesy. So we have some examples that I'm just going to very briefly go over them. Um, so you see that people, hey, what's going on? Okay, what I've been doing? Okay, well, got a nice car here, something quickly, and then you move on, right? Or look at the bottom, you have male, female speakers like, hey, how are you? Okay, where have you been? And so on. Good, good, and that's it. Okay, this is just courtesy, and you don't find people like really asking each other like how they feel because they're trying to establish this rapport, but that's it. Okay, that's it. So you see, even the greetings among men and male and female interactions differ, right? So you see, even the way people reach out in order to greet his or her counterpart are different. As you know, there is no point in hugging unless it's a family member. There is no point in locking eye contact or anything. It's just the brief moment and that's it. Something that happens. Same as in among women. I don't really think people are gonna be talking too much about what their lives are like. Really. So take a look that there's some greeting strategies also. Okay, they have names. Okay, I'm just going to very briefly here. I'm going to breeze through them and refer to some of the names, like bald on record strategy. Right. Okay. Take a look. So it's like you're telling the person that you have something, you know, in you have something more important than socializing, really. It's like saying we're late, let's hurry. Okay, it's like let's cut the red tape. Why so much talking that's informal? Let's get to business. This is the way it is over there. And it's not that people are rude or anything, but as you should know, time is money, right? Then some greeting strategies. You may you may greet a person or reach out to a person, and as you can see, face is image, right? There may be a negative face or positive face. Negative face is Are you X person? So the person may wonder now, how do you know it's me? Because you've been talking about me or my appearance, right? So the person may say yes or yes. Do I know you? Ah, yeah. Hello, Professor X. Okay. This is a possible way for a person to self-introduce. And is this dangerous? Yeah, it is, because the person may ask you, so how did you know I'm Mr. Jones or Professor Jones? And then you have to explain that, right? Maybe the person won't like what you're going to tell them, that people are speaking behind their backs. Eh, or some positive face like, oh, I've heard so many positive things about you. I'm very glad to meet you. Then at least the person knows that whatever it is that they speak behind their backs is a positive thing. But um, remember, people always worry when you don't know them, right? But they know you. They know who you are, right? This is a problem for many people. You have to be aware of this. I'm talking to teachers mainly here, okay? Colleagues. You don't know people who greet you sometimes in the streets. You just don't know who they are, but they know who you are. They know who you are. So this is troublesome. This is troublesome, right? And some others are like off record. It's like you just don't say much. So look at this, still alive and kicking. You're telling the person I'm okay. So just like that. And others are neutral, like, you know, you don't want to really invest much time telling a person much about it. About like how are you and all that, like courtesy. Okay. Just gesture, or maybe something like hi, all right, like just like that. This also occurs. So respect, okay, this is essentially, I think, a very important element of speech act theory and human interactions in general, and a culture is affected by this. Okay, people want to be respected. So in order for respect to occur, some people expect you to give them respect so that you can give them respect back, right? There must be respect in every interaction. Even for a child, the problem begins when there is no respect, and then interactions won't flow, freely in a very friendly way. It becomes very unfriendly, and this is just not right. What do our students need to know? They need to know that they have to um, do, things without letting emotions control them. They have to behave in a way that is ruled by a, common sense. This is what should prevail. Okay, respect. To me, respect is common sense, right? That's what it is. Okay, so I'm gonna go back very quickly here to greetings, and I'd like to know if you have seen people asking you like, "How are you?" and did you think they were really interested in how you feel? Did you get that impression? Especially speaking towards people from other cultures. If you ever had the opportunity to talk to someone from another culture, did they ask you something like, "How are you?" And or did you ask them like, "How are you?" How did that work?
Well, if it's only one question, it's like you answer the, the basic, like, oh, fine, thanks, or I'm okay, or everything's okay. But if there is a second and third question, it means for me, it shows that the person is interested in something else. Like, for example, if they ask me, where are you working? What are you doing? Then that's a more direct question about my life. But if not, it's just the usual greeting.
So there's this formality, right, behind all of this. So how are you? How's your family? How's your mom? So just like that, you know, you don't really want to know because this is the way it is. People just ask this out of a formality. And we need to be aware of this, that it doesn't make any sense for you to talk to people considering, you know, someone's health or whatever. So not really. Okay, what about complaining? Have you ever complained, or have you ever been in a situation in which the complaint didn't go right?
Reclamo de nota.
Generally, yeah. Is that a case like great claim?
Yes, every semester, like there are some students that will address in different ways. No, for example, I have no experience with students from abroad, but in Panama, or my students would go directly with a question. Teacher, why I got that grade?
Mhm.
Or I'm checking my grades, I'm checking my works, and I don't think I deserve that grade. Like, very direct.
And do you consider that disrespectful?
Yeah, I would expect an introduction first.
Okay, okay. But that's exactly what they don't want to give you, right? They won't give you any context for that complaint, because that will be for them to explain what they did wrong before.
Yeah, but and sometimes I tell them, like, oh, first of all, who are you? Because I think they believe that I know every name and I'm aware of every situation. So they will ask directly, like, ay, profesora, ¿por qué me puso esa nota? Why do you have that grade? And I said, who's talking? I beg your pardon. I don't know who is this? And they will tell them, no, I'm fulanito de tal, and you put me a C, and I think, and I check my grades, and I think I should have an A. So I said, well, let's start from the beginning. Why you think so? And so. But in terms of the complaint, the direct complaint, or the strategy they use, I think it's kind of a learning that we both have in expressing our complaint. So what you're explaining here, what you're telling us here today, is something that we work, but in when the situation is happening, not before. Like, we don't talk about how to these things. They only learn, or we only learn about the situation when it happens.
Mhm.
When the complaint is there, and then we try to, and then I've noticed that students says, oh, teacher, I'm sorry, the way I address you, you're right, I didn't have this work finished, and so and so and so. So we learn with the situation, but not before. So I think I would like you to share this presentation with us.
So we need to make our students realize that they just don't have any basic understanding of human relations. It's no wonder their personal situations are so messy in general. And the reason is because look at the way how they complain. They just go there asking and you know, blaming someone else for something that's completely their work. Because the whole semester, so it's important to let them know, okay, explain to me, first of all, what your problem is, okay, how you got to the, you know, how you got to this situation. Then when they have to explain, do the explaining, then they will be able to complain. But they don't want to, they skip all of that and they go straight into accusing the person. So it's manipulation to a great extent, and this is not right, because this is how they will carry themselves later in life. They will do it that way. And yes, it's important to explain the purpose, complain, and then try to find some repair, you know, that could be in agreement with the person, right? In English, it's important to include we. That way you will soften or downgrade. You may ask questions. That's important also. But that's not for accusing someone. It's more like to talk over some specific thing, and then you'll downgrade or upgrade depending on how affected you feel. Okay. And indirectly complaining, then that's using, you know, never you, right? That's what you avoid. Very good. Then I think we have covered everything I have concerning this important topic on speech acts. As I was telling you before, there's some other areas which are very important that also involve politeness. But this deserves like another 40 hours, really, because there are too many of them that we would need to, you know, dissect one by one and analyze the reasons why people say things one way or the other, and clarify intentions, and also to agree on what is accepted, culturally accepted as coming from an educated person who is has some level of cultural competence, right? That you won't do things the way you learned, or the way you think you're okay. You have to learn how it is done in another culture. Okay. I'd like to know if you have any questions or comments here up to this point before I get into another topic. Okay, if there are no questions, then I'm moving into a very important topic that is going to serve the purpose of introducing us to culture and English language teaching, really. We have a very necessary reflection to make at this point. Culture is visible and invisible. Okay, so what does this mean? This means that there is the visible culture, which is the way people, you know, put on clothes, or the kinds of clothes that people wear. That's by that I mean, for instance, a Congo or a montuno or la pollera. That's culturally speaking, the visible culture. What a people of a nationality eat, what could be labeled as national food or national cuisine. I'm talking here probably tamales, or maybe a rondon, or some other kinds of food that people consider is national food, right? This is the visible culture. However, as we were talking before, concerning the relationship between language and culture, then there is a hidden part of that culture, which is the socio-cultural norms that explain people's behavior, right? There are hierarchies, values, and shared history that makes up this other, you know, component, which is not obvious. This is invisible. You'll have to visit a country and live, in that culture with the people in order to know why they behave in such X, Y, or Z way, why they say these things, why they behave in such a way, everything, all of that, right? That has to do with people's behavior. So we could compare that to an iceberg, right? Where we have at the top of the iceberg, we have what is visible, what you can see, right? Then, for instance, in this very good image I brought here for this slide, we have dress art, also literature, holidays, etiquette, food. Okay, there's a misspelled word over there. I think probably heroes is what they mean. So all that is linked to what you can see, right? What we can see. The hidden part that we don't see, that's more subtle. You see values, ethics, morals, the meaning of life for a society, right? Philosophy, people's beliefs, people's traditions. All of this is a part or an important part of identity. The visible and invisible culture shape national identity. Okay, and these are like very non-material things that we're talking about, but the fact that they are non-material, such as national identity, or for instance, or sovereignty, or shared history, all of this is immaterial, probably, but it exists. You see, the fact that it is not physical or material, something that you can deal with or touch, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist or that it is something inexistent. These things exist, and this is the way we human beings get together in order to organize ourselves and live together, in civilization. So all civilized societies have a visible and invisible culture element. Okay, I'd like to know from your perspective at least two elements of Panamanian invisible culture that you could tell me, please. At least two elements of hidden culture, hidden Panamanian culture. Hidden Panamanian culture.
Yeah, I have one that it bothers me a lot about us, is about people telling you that they're gonna attend something and they don't even show up, and they don't call you, or I'm gonna do something and I'll come back, and they never come back. And that's because I've talked about this with other people and say that's very Panamanian. And people from other countries have also asked me about this, like, why do Panamanians say they're going to your party and they don't show up?
So what do you think that is? What is behind that behavior?
I think they want to be polite. They don't want to say no. And then they end up accepting something. That's my explanation, because there's no logic behind that behavior, like saying, yeah, are you gonna would you like to come to my birthday party? Oh yes, I'm excited. I'm so, and then the date come and they don't show up, they don't call you. And if they meet you, they will tell you like, that day I was so busy, or I didn't feel good, right, and so on. The thing with the people from abroad is that they don't understand what's going on with that behavior.
Interesting. So yeah, a lot of this is linked to history. Yes, is there anybody else wanted to say something else?
Yes, Professor,
Sure.
related to that, I don't know if it is visible or invisible, but Panamanian punctuality. That's some people say, well, Panamanian time, it is at 1, but we are going to start at 2. So I don't know if it is visible or invisible, but that's part of our culture, and all, of course that affects or impacts foreigners who come and deal with our community, with our culture, and they consider, well, Panamanians, the punctuality is not their plus. So I don't know if it is visible or invisible. That's something that is part of our culture, and obviously uh, affects the way we communicate with others and we live is as well.
Okay. So my question again is, what is behind that kind of behavior? What do you think it is that affects or impacts our behavior? Okay, if you've never paid much attention to this topic, uh, there have been several analyses of Panamanian behavior. Uh, I think this culture of ours is informal because it's in Latin America. We tend to be informal. Uh, you know, Latin Americans start becoming formal as they educate themselves more, and they have to establish relations with other cultures and other groups that value these things such as punctuality and formality, and um, you know but in reality, Panamanians care only about their family. That's one thing. For instance, at the doctorado en ciencias sociales, what we one of the areas, one of the gray areas about Panamanian identity, because there is a national identity course over there, is the value of that we uh, grant to certain things. For instance, you see that Panamanians care very much about holidays. That's very important for Panamanian people, but it is important because of family. That's the reason why the holidays are an opportunity for them. This is the same everywhere, but this is especially true here in our country. You see people just care about carnavales. For some people, it's even more important than Christmas or any other uh, type of holiday, and the reason is because they want to see their family. It's an opportunity for them to be around a family or the people they know, and this is what people value. You know, this is what people value. Um, Another thing is that you see people standing in long lines to get a piece of ham uh, before December, before Christmas, and people don't care standing in line at 3 or 2 a.m. in the morning and being there under the sun, under the scorching sun for hours in line in order to get a piece of ham. And there is a historic reason for that. And in that course, we learned that Spaniards were the only one entitled to eat ham, that slaves and labor, they ate beef, beef, cattle meat, beef, because that was what authorities thought, or local Spaniards, they thought that they deserved, and they expected um, eh, for this ships, their ships coming with all of these pigs, for them to be able to eat that kind of meat, because that was the meat that the Spaniards would eat. So I think to some extent this has affected people's ideas, and they think that if they don't eat ham, they're left out. They're being excluded. So the piece of ham on the Christmas table has gained this prestige of being like a symbolic. It is symbolic of some status, but this is coming from the colonial times in our country, and it's a phenomenon that history departments are aware of. That's why people desperately need to eat ham. If you tell some Panamanian people that they will not eat ham this year, this is going to create a uproar, because this is not right for them not to eat what they think it's a symbol of their status. Another thing is that when you go to places looking for ham, which is imported, all of it is mostly imported, especially at places like PriceMart. They disappear. This ham disappears, and when you ask, like encounters, like where all the ham? Where is it? Or are you bringing any more? They tell you everything was bought like by the hundreds, by politicians who came and ordered 200, 300, 500 pieces of ham. What for? In order to give it to political, people who are politically tied to their campaign, to their electorate, and because this is like a very good symbol of progress, right? Economic progress is symbolized through ham. So this is, for example, something hidden that's part of that invisible iceberg. There are historical reasons for people's behavior. So if you ever see again on TV people standing under the sun for 4 hours, 5 hours to get a piece of ham, now you know why. Now you know why. And this is something that I was very surprised to learn. Never heard about this, unheard, at least for me, concerning this. So there are so many other cases and things that people do and behaviors that we just can't explain, and some of them could be regarded as bad or negative, but this is the reality. Okay, we have to accept reality as it is. Sometimes it is acceptable and nice, sometimes it is ugly, but this is the truth. This is the truth. Is there any question concerning the visible and invisible culture?
Hello? Okay.
Mhm.
Well, I think everything is clear. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I think everything is clear, but I also would like to mention that it has to do with the culture you have at home. In the country, you have a culture, yes, and that has to do with holidays, etc., food, dress, art. But you have another culture at home, and it really depends on the values and beliefs and traditions that you have had at home first for you to be able to insert yourself in society and be able to work your way through and succeed. So that's part of the hidden culture too. So that's something that we don't see. We just see people's behavior and the students' behavior in classroom, and then for some students, you just wonder what is going on at home or how they were brought up. So that's what I wanted to share. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yeah, it's very important to realize what's going on in our own culture in order to be able to understand things from other cultures or situations, or to explain, to try to understand what is really happening in other cultures. We need to understand our own and reflect on our own history. This is so true. Look, I don't know, but I'm under the impression, I am under the impression that the Catholic Church is going to have a big problem in this country in a few years, because every time I have surveyed my classes, I have discovered that most of younger generations, people who are, younger, they are either a Christian evangelical or they're agnostic, and they say it openly. And many of them, most of them are agnostic, or, they just don't believe in God. So this is going to delete a huge parts of their heritage that I think has made this country as it is. So probably the country is going to change a lot in the coming years, because this new generation, they just don't believe. They just don't believe that God is there, So they're not even Christian. So this is something interesting. It's an interesting phenomenon, because one of the things that has defined history is also religion. As you can see, Europe is also in trouble, because people have left the Catholic Church, and they over there, they don't have any interest in evangelical churches at all. So most of the people are just agnostic, and they say it. They just don't believe. And those church buildings, they're going to be emptier and emptier. I don't really see how, or, unless something very, very serious occurs here, I don't think people are going to go back to any of those buildings easily. You won't get that crowd, the crowd that historically visited churches. So this is one aspect also that has to do with a tradition and the meaning of life. It's not longer defined by beliefs anymore. People want some things that are, tangible, that are concrete, that are material or physical. This is a very materialistic society, and we need to pay attention to that. I'm going to be very quickly here referring to some aspects of visible and invisible culture before we go for a break, because when we come back, I'm going to start analyzing and dissecting American culture, because that's our object of study. As we move along, the continuum of culture, visible and invisible, it's important to find some examples. Now that we have reflected on our very own, it's important also to establish how there is a connection among these different layers that make up culture. At the first level, we have artifacts, practices, and behaviors, which is so observable, right? Observable. An example of an artifact, a cultural artifact, or culture, maybe a cultural object. That could be something created by Panamanians to reflect our values. Probably La Pollera Nacional, that could be an artifact. Practices, that could be the holidays. The behaviors could be something like probably not being very punctual, for example. At a second level, we have cultural values and norms, shared and understood tacitly, okay, not explicitly. Like, for example, I don't know, maybe celebrating female 15 years with a party. This is something tacit. People will go for that immediately as they have a child or a young girl that has become an adolescent. The third level could be beliefs and assumptions. So those are unconsciously held by the core of the culture. So what people think, what people really think, okay? And this is the way this different layers somewhat relate. So I'm going to be stopping here for us to go for a break. And
Before
then-
we go for a break,
Sure.
yeah, I would like to add to the healing culture, the fact that when you said that the Catholic Church is going to be in trouble because their churches are getting into it, but that didn't start just now. I mean, that started about 1500 when Martin Luther started complaining about the indulgences that the Catholic Church was selling. I mean, they were selling a piece of heaven. And then Martin Luther, being an intellectual, started complaining about the fact that there was a kind of misleading people towards what God is and their faith. So and then the Protestant movement started, and there I think it was in 1517 or something like that. There the problem started, and people just started going through looking for real faith, and not just for what they were told. And during those times, people could not read the Bible, and people started reading the Bible and learning by themselves what faith was and what faith is now. So that's the problem. I think that if the Catholic Church begins to ask people, I think they are doing it now, to read the Bible by themselves and understand what faith is, I mean, something else is going to happen. Thank you. That's it.
Sure. Agreed. Okay. Yeah, you don't necessarily have to agree with me, but that's my personal impression on this topic. Just as part of our reflection concerning our culture first, before we get into somebody else's culture or some other human group's culture, right? That there are things that are changing. So this is like a changing process, like it's evolving, and it's not static. Very good. Thank you very much. I don't know, Professor, if there's anything you'd like to say. I think it's already 9:30. Is there anything to say before
Where is
break?
Joel is today's host? Joel, where are you? Well, he doesn't seem to be here today. I don't know. Well, yeah, we are going to have a break, and then we're going to be back at 9:45.
At 9:45. All right.
See you then.
All right.
Let me see. Can you hear me? Yes.
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 Okay. So important announcement. Do not forget to complete the attendance form. And this is very important, just once. It doesn't mean you have to complete every time we announce that, okay? So, oh, my camera's not okay. So we are going to come back to the session. Professor Cardenas, I pass on to you the mic.
Right. Yes. So, am I projecting? Okay. Do you
Yes,
see my screen?
perfectly. It is
Okay.
Yes.
visible and invisible culture.
Thank you very much. Okay, very good. Now we're going to start talking, as I said before, about American culture and values, right? Why is that? Because this is our closest reference in terms of cultural knowledge. Now, what we see here are two images that reflect some of their values. You see, this is the culture of the heroes, right? And they are to some extent, many people complain about it, the police force of the world. But the reality is that they emerged as victors after World War II, right? And for historical reasons, this country has become influential, mainly because of they have little by little proven that their vision of the world or their meaning of life uh, has a purpose. And it's very material, right? Very material. That you see that everybody speaks about the American dream, and uh, and that is because it's, as it seems, the United States has been portrayed as a land of promise. It's just like any other part of the world, it has problems too, right? It has problems. And the problems begin when people don't believe anymore in the benefits that they may get from these idealized values and ways of behavior. So capitalism, which is at the core of these values, is historical. Okay, it's a lot more historical than any other system, because this is the way people have progressed from having nothing to having too much. The problem is that we seem to be very selfish in nature, and there's too much for very few and too little for the many. And this is what this ideal of, of this hidden culture of success and the land of promise and a dream, the American dream and all this, well, that has taken hold in people's minds. The proof of this is thousands and thousands of migrants had been coming through our country in order to go to the States. Now they have been expelled and deported to different countries. And now they're raiding people over there. And even though they know they will go there to suffer, many of them consider going to the United States and being there is just it's an accomplishment in itself. So this is the hidden culture, the invisible part of culture, that there's this obsession with success, and this is something that they have exported through history, and now through media. Because another reason why this invisible culture has been exported is through film and TV, books, magazines, the internet, etc., etc. So there's so many ways you can export your culture. Some people will do it for the better. I think they are the American culture that have been, they are victims of their own success, because it's not a good thing that you have millions of people flowing into your country, right? That's not a good thing to occur. So it could be for economic reasons, but in the long run, when you are living in an unstable world, this migration flow would create insecurity and would make you a potential victim of terrorism and so many other problems that are occurring right now. So as you can see, this superhero depicted here as with a shield. This is Captain America. You see that he has on his hand the American flag, and on his costume, he's wearing the colors of diversity also. This has also become a country that defends same-sex marriage and some other things that they are exporting into the world. Many people, they just don't like it. And others, of course, like it and defend it. But so many others, they just consider this is very negative for the world. There is nothing we can do about it. Some people will like it, some others won't. And you see the bullets, see bigotry and crime, injustice, intolerance, and so forth, and censorship. The reality is that American society is very controlling too. They say they don't want people to be censored, but they control people some other way, you know? They find ways to control people. So they have very sophisticated means for controlling. Concerning the food that you see on the right, yeah, everybody feels such a combo is the best projection of American, the American way, right? You have the hamburger and then you have the fries, the French fries. But the reality is that this fast food is killing and affecting the health of millions too. So you see, there is something good and something bad in everything. So it's not a good thing to, make anything ideal, because all of these ideals sooner or later will fall. So this is the part that we will discuss. I think what we're going to discuss today may not be very well taken by some. I don't know, but this is the agenda. Also, part of the invisible American culture is, as you can see, the Constitution, also what the grill that takes many forms and takes many names according to how people tailgating in football and so forth, and all of these are like social gatherings in which it's as it seems everyone is invited to this, but this is just an ideal, as we all know, right? Same as the success of a capitalistic society. There is success for some people, not for the many. It's just for a few. Okay. Same as in the arts, and it has some values that come from a history that had some very ugly things, such as slavery. And we cannot forget that, as it seems, they're trying to, project themselves as very open. But we're now discovering that, this openness is also elusive. People are being deported, and of course, there are also good and bad people, who migrate. But the reality is that all this cheap labor is necessary for the economy, their economy, to keep on working and be successful. So there is all of these elements of beauty, entertainment industry, food industry, sports, and ideals, arts, and it's a country that is trying also to project itself as an example to the world. So we're all aware of this, and of course the media is very important concerning this and playing a role now. Now I want to talk about the other part that I think here in Panama we're familiar with this. Probably our students are not anymore because people who were born after the year 2000, they have no idea what it was like to, live or go to the Canal Zone, the former Canal Zone. The reality is that the values of such a society are similar to ancient Rome, the empire, which citizenship was earned. You have to earn citizenship, and the way to do it is to go to war. As you all know, this country is a very warrior, so warrior society. Some people don't think so, and they say, well, this is a democratic country. But the reality is that its industry and military, industry runs on international conflict, and part of their success is selling weapons everywhere. So you see, every time you turn over to the news, you will discover that there is a new deal with selling thousands of weapons to different countries. It's millionaire, deals and agreements that involve weapon selling and training, and the presence of military bases all over the world. So my question here is, how could it be, how could that be that a country that claims to be democratic needs military presence all over the world for the keeping of peace? So is it really a democracy? Maybe it's a democracy inside, but to them, but out in the world, it's not so democratic anymore. That's where democracy ends. And there is strength and military presence. We are a part of that. We know it because we watch the news. We're aware of what's going on. And the values of such a society come from this original, structure, hierarchy, so that it's a good thing for us to look at right now. Why? Because this is relevant to understand the culture, and it will also help us understand our own, which is also connected to theirs in some areas. So at the bottom of a Viking hierarchy, which I think is one of the better structured Western models from the Middle Ages, talking about around 500, maybe much more, 500 years ago, maybe more, a lot more. We had at the bottom slaves, right? People who had to work in order to make a living. They didn't have a salary. They had to obey to their masters, and their lives were under the hands of the masters. Is this still happening? Of course it is, but we have different names now. Okay? It's the same thing, because this is an economic structure, not only social, it's economic too. And over them, you have the free men, right? So comparing, we could say probably slaves, just like people without an education, and the free men with probably the professionals of a present day society. So you have at the very bottom, the people who have nothing, not even an education, maybe just a name. But then you have the others who got an education, got educated and have a skill. Because in this group of the Carls, you had, as you can see there, maybe farmers, you had smithsmen, you had also soldiers, you have some merchants and so forth. Then over them, then they came the earls. Now these earls for Vikings were mostly the chiefs. So people who ruled most of the society, and many of them were priests also. So these people with this moral authority to decide over the lives of the rest of society. So these are the jarls, which could very easily be at present maybe a diputado, someone like that, who make a decision on people's lives, and they irresponsibly make whatever policy they decide benefits them, and they disregard what's going on. So we vote for people now, and as it seems, we are changing this, but we're still following similar patterns. Then over them, we had the kings or the ruling class, the rulers, and you see their dispensers, land givers, the givers. But the reality is that they don't give much. They really take away from people. So based on this model, we have now present day societies that have seem to be evolved now. Along with that economic and social or structure, we could also very easily refer to ideals and values, right? These ideas and values existed from very, very long, much before, very, very long before, for instance, the French Revolution. So these Norwegians and these Vikings back in the day, present day Norwegians, Swedish, and Danish, they spoke much before, earlier about liberty, equality, and fraternity. So the French Revolution took those values as their own, but those existed. But those are only values because in the long run, economic order rules the day. And this is reflected in cultural behavior and hierarchy. People's narratives depend according to the area they belong to, right? So if you are at the bottom of the pyramid, you have a narrative. You're in the middle, you speak about something else. And if you're at the top, your narrative is completely different from the other two groups, and you live in the same country. And supposedly, you face the same reality. So you see, this is all about perception. And those ideals, and I should add here sovereignty, this is all out the window, really, because when people have trouble, problems, personal problems or family problems, or whatever situation they have in their community, they cannot rely on any of those members of the pyramid to assist them. So they will only probably have to rely on their very fellows or on their own families. And I think that has to do with the way society has been structured. So in a Roman household, in the ancient Rome, now we're talking about the United States of America, concretely speaking, it seems like it's a very patriarchal society, right? The values are very manly or male, male focused. As you see here, the paterfamilias or head of household had to be a man, right? A man. No woman could rule a household. For Vikings, it was possible to have a female at the top of a clan or tribe. But that was at informal level of the organization. But when it came to ruling many people and lots of land, then they needed similar structure, and then things started evolving to end up pretty much as it is here. Under the head of the household, the male character, you had the sons first. They were at the top of the pyramid, and then the daughters underneath. So probably our female audience may not enjoy me saying this, but I have to tell you the truth. This is the way it was. And I think this is also the way they have shaped society. At least Western society is like this, right? And you see, there aren't many chances for women to rule. And probably this is one of the causes of the situations we're going through, because of not having a balance. You see, we lack balance. We cannot be only on one end of the pendulum. And this is what's really going on. And then underneath the daughters came the clients, the citizens of free men, right in the middle of the pyramid. See, it's like a middle class, the professional middle class that has a skill. It's always in the middle. It's like the middle of the sandwich. Then you have the freedman. This is slave set free by master. And then at the bottom, people without value, which are slaves without any rights. Okay, so this is a difficult topic concerning culture, because we need to reflect on some things that we take for granted, right? We take these things for granted. So was it important for them to have beliefs? Of course, there was more morality in ancient Rome, right? Okay, so they had a pantheon of divinities, right, that they prayed to according to what they did, what their skill or what their activity was. Okay, those values were linked to the deities, and that depending on if you were a senator, if you were I don't know, maybe soldier, if you were a member of a legion or something, then you'll have your divinities. Then things change, right? And they lean more on what you could profit from or benefit from. And then you had utilitarianism, okay? Virtues and duty, and there must be strict balance for balance in existence. And then there was also the law that sustained the whole structure. There was a law, and they claimed they had 12 tablets. They try to keep that simple. Okay, so this is how culture works. It is sustained by people's beliefs, ideas, what people write, what people agree is necessary for a society to exist. But ultimately, it's organized on a family, under a family structure. Family. That's why in present day democracy, they keep talking about the family being the basic unit of organization and society. Even though back in the day, it was not possible for population to grow so much, so they needed slaves. Slaves, the thralls, were necessary, which are at the base of the pyramid, so as to live comfortably or live better and have the nationals more in the corals, right? A larger mid pyramid section, larger one. And so are migrants important? Yes, they are. They are the present day trolls in most of our Western societies. And they're lured to this scheme by these ideals of liberty, equality, fraternity, which are not always as, not always complied with. And then this legal structure is evidence of this, because if there was a fraternity, you wouldn't have slaves with no rights. So these things need to change, but they keep on happening today, 2025. So regardless of the fact that we are like 1,000, 2,000 years older than this organization, this still holds to a large extent. It's similar values that sustain, a life. You have a triad at the top that they don't, they just don't tell anybody what they do really. Then they just respond to the gods. That's how they feel they got there. They have their deities, and then at the bottom, right underneath, you have people who try to keep a balanced life with some values, and then the law sustains the whole thing. I was talking to you about the patriarchy. Okay, for a society to be patriarchal, as it seems it's happening right now with the present day empire, the U.S., we have to refer back to the former empire before this, which was the ancient Rome, right? Before this present day Anglo-American empire, the empire that existed was ancient Rome. By an empire, I mean a government or state that ruled most of the events happening in the world. Many of these values still persist, and they're really military mostly, because it's about conquering. It's about conquering. And as you see, here is, for example, for the military class, their adherence to gods, a way of life, and some values, right? Something similar occurs with these different branches of the military. There is no point in having so many branches and devoting resources to so many different organizations that'll do the same. It's a matter of building pride and a structure, and keeping a moral that justifies their way of seeing the world. It's their order, right? The way they want to organize the world. We see, for example, this SPQR. That's you see, as it seems like, depending on the year, how many years the person would serve for the Senate, they will get a line, right? And then that's how you earn citizenship. Something similar happens in a country such as the United States. Many people migrate there, but they don't want to go into the military. For obvious reasons, they don't want to go there because they want the good, but they don't want the burden. But the only way in the past for a person to earn citizenship was through going and serving in the military. Most of the migrants nowadays, they are not going. Many of them do, and that's how they earn respect in a society. And people tell them, thank you for your service and all of that, and they get this special treatment. Special, in quote unquote special, because even this ex-military, they don't always obtain what they are what they were promised. Okay, so why is the military so important? Because it's a way of preserving the order. I don't know if you have a comment or if you agree or disagree with me, but I'd like to have some of your opinions before I move on, please. I know this could be a difficult topic for some people, like to process. Or probably they don't enjoy what we're talking about here, but it's always a good thing that we reflect a little bit. So yes, I do appreciate very much if you tell me something concerning a patriarchal order, the empire under the patriarchy, economic pyramid structure in the family, Roman Empire family structure, the values behind this organization, and how history, shapes values like the superhero culture of benefit, where a dream is possible, this sort of thing. What do you think about it? Or how do you see these things, these topics? I could tell you for sure, one of the reasons we have lots and lots of students studying English at the English department is because of because of the economy. People believe, right, that this is the language of success. Okay, why? Because of Bana country's success, mainly the U.S. success at present, as being an only country standing, right, as a controller in many areas because of the dollar also. So I don't know. What is your opinion, if you have something to share concerning this topic? If you would like to share something, of course.
Well, I think it has to do with the historical moment we're in. I mean, during the time of the before the French Revolution, the French were the ones in power, and everybody wanted to study French. So it really depends. Right now, the American ones are in power, and everybody wants to study English because this is our historical moment. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Randy has a comment in the chat room. He says people should work 24/7 to have a good life in the US.
Well, hello, can you hear me?
Sure.
Yes, I think that as you said, it's clear. English is the language of success. And historically speaking, we can read about the expansion of the British Empire, the expansion of the American Empire, and one of the signs of that expansion is teaching the language wherever they want to enter. So by the fact of using the English language, it tells the world that we have a connection with those places, with those countries that represent an empire. An example of that is for the time that we're having here the military bases here in Panama. Many people around the world uh, thought that every Panamanian was bilingual just by the fact of having here the American influence in the military bases. So the fact of having English in different places is one sign of the expansion of those empires.
Okay, what about the patriarchal nature of American society? Do you agree with this?
Well, in my case, I think that that's everyone's thought. It depends on how everyone perceives how it influenced everyone's life.
So considering the fact that they've never had a female president, why do you think that is? They say they are an example in the world. They've never had a female president. What do you think about that? At least we had a female president here once.
Well, they have had candidates. They had Hillary Clinton, and during the last election, there was Kamala Harris. But well, it has to do with voters also on the campaign, and who made a better campaign, who was able to convince everyone. I mean, I think that has to do with it. I mean, with the fact that we don't have president, a woman president.
In my opinion, I think they governments have spread this old fashioned way of thinking that if you think about it, it comes from the Vikings and other cultures, the Roman Empire. But all these cultures, all these countries have evolved in thinking. So you don't see that in Nordic countries that they behave like that. So it seems that the North American governments, not the people, because I think the people are segmented, but there is a population in the United States that have it's like old fashioned or not updated, and they still think, but these things, but they depend on the government to exist. If you put these people in any other country in the world, they cannot stand by themselves if they don't have the American embassy. So they're not like normal people who can adapt to a different scenario. They always need their government to exist. But there are some other people that they can adapt, they evolve, they can share in other countries, in other cultures. So the idea of keeping these people in ignorance, it's what makes them strong as a government. And for example, Mr. Trump today, he's trying to make people believe that this is the only way they will keep the power. So in terms of culture, was what Marisol said, is that there have been candidate women, for example, they have been other type of president that are not so patriarchal. And I think most people like that. The thing is that the system they have for elections is very precarious. They don't even accept everybody voting. So for me, it's just like when I think about the language, I would prefer to think about the many countries or the many people that use that language in a commercial way, and just for lingua franca, for communicating. But I don't like, I need to know these things because they exist, but I don't think it will rule or it will make a change in the way I think. No, I don't. I'm not even willing to travel to the U.S., but not because I would like to know that culture or the places. They have marvelous places. I've been there a couple of times, but it's because the problems they make when you get there. That's I've lost interest in that country. Thank you.
Opinion? Okay. Now I'm gonna bring this parallel, and I'm going to take off the mask, right? We're going to take off the mask over here. There's a reason why I talked to you about the Viking social and economic organization, then the Roman. And now let's take a look at the symbols, okay? So present day Anglo-American empire is modeled after the Roman Empire, really, okay? And because it's patriarchal, okay? And because of it's a system that claims to represent the vast majorities of the population through a Senate. And you know, it uses this symbolism of the eagle, which is an animal that's uncompromising, cannot be domesticated or tamed. It's very strong, but it is not feral. It will not attack you unless you are against what you know, what it thinks, or if you get in the way of the eagle, right? And you see there that they have established some symbols, right? And look at the colors, the shapes. They're fairly similar, very similar. And also this ideals, SPQR is the Senate and the people in Latin. And you see that American mottos are we the people. We the people. So as it seems is a similar structure, similar organization. So could we say it's an empire? I think so. I think so. Probably you disagree. But the presence of bases in all continents, okay, and submarines with nuclear weapons all over the world, it's a very clear symbol that there is a ruling power in the world, and that power has been established there for some time, and it won't allow anybody to dispute that authority, right? So, okay. This is an important motto, so American. Let's read it. So, e pluribus unum. So, it's, as you know, one out of many, okay, in present day English. So this is the original 1776 design for the Great Seal by Pierre-Eugène du Cimetière. The shields with 13 initials of a colony surrounding symbols of the 6 origin nations, okay, the 6 origin nations of the United States, right? You have England, which is the rose, Scotland's the thistle, Ireland the harp, Holland the Netherlands, which is lion, France is le fleur de lis, and Germany the eagle. This is linked together with a motto. So is Spain there? No. Why do you think Spain is not there? Why not? I'd like to ask you that. Where is Spain? Any ideas? Let me know. So when they say a pluribus unum, what they mean is we are one out of the many. Okay, but as it seems, the many are only 6 countries. Where is Spain and Portugal?
This one seemed to be Anglo-Saxon, of Anglo-Saxon origins. Was France is there, and
Is there a reason why Spain is not included here? That's what I'm asking. This is what I'm really asking. Okay, is there anybody interested in providing his or her input?
Sorry, Professor Cardenas, could you repeat the question because I have a lot of interference in where I am, and
The question is, where is Spain?
I wish to participate. I don't. For me, is that I can't hear you very well. Could you repeat the question so everybody could be part of this seminar and express themselves because we have to support.
Where
speakers.
is Spain?
Marit, I am thinking that it is because of geography. Thinking of the geography, it might be that they couldn't get to that place. I don't know. Thinking of the position of the countries there.
Okay. If we think of history, this is 1776. Spain was on the other end. That was their competition, right? Spain was the empire back in the day. So the United States is made up by nations that were competing with the Spanish Empire. And that's the reason why large parts of Mexico were taken over by the US. And they have all of these places, with Spanish names, Los Angeles, San Diego, and you name them. And on this part, because that was taken from Spain. Later, again, same thing happened with Cuba and Puerto Rico, right? And other parts of the Caribbean. So Latin America shares geographically some space with this empire, but we were not part of this project, really. That's why Latin Americans are not considered or, like equals. And the reason is because of this, because they're origin nations they have in that country. Okay. And they are, the English, Irish, Holland, or Dutch, the French, the Germans. These are the original Americans, really. And that is why there are so many racial tensions in that country, because I think this is part of their economic and organization. This is what is the original American project. Either we like it or not. They don't talk to you much about this, but this is what you find in books. Okay? They don't talk about it, but this is part of their history. There is a lot of racial tension against other groups because they were not a part of the original project. You see, since you were not there at the beginning, you are not a part of it. You'll always be second class, right? Okay. The pendulum of postmodern power structure is male and female rule, right? Because leadership styles are different. Is this related to culture? Of course it is. Why so? Because this affects vision of life, the meaning of life also. Life project is also impacted by this. And there are different leadership styles. That's why I was talking to you before about the importance of keeping a balance, right? Keeping a balance between the patriarchy and the matriarchy. I don't know if you've noticed, but under male leadership, the government is one thing, right? Then under female leadership, it could be different. It could be different. There is more leeway for a possible change of direction or more dialogue, right? More dialogue. For example, under a patriarchy, you see the few men, almost no women, first of all. Okay, that's the top of the hierarchy. You see that everywhere you go. You see what's going to happen is that they will impose their authority, either we like it or not, and that is reflected through domination, exploitation, and coercion. Not because Cardenas says so. This is in literature and history. Okay? So probably you disagree. It's okay if you disagree. But if you don't like it, you go look for this information yourself and you'll discover what the patriarchy does. Then they want to become affluent through property, ownership of land, resources, and means of production in order to get power and wealth and preserve wealth. Then at the bottom of the pyramid, then you'll see the weakest of the weak in society. Almost all men, almost all women, and all children. Those who don't belong to that ruling class, that patriarchy. On the other end of this pendulum, we have the matriarchy. Okay, many people say patriarchy is weak and so forth, but it's a little bit more natural. It's a different kind of leadership where you have mothers giving birth, say, whatever is created, they claim they gave birth to that project and they want to see through, the growth of that project, which is like their children. Then that children could be the people also. Okay? They have projects that are more inclined to develop the people so that they mature, in the form of men and women and giving individuals their place in society. Of course, that is going to take everything to a point in which there will be death, but then female view is more of birth, death, and birth, you see? And then you have over there open discussions on all points of view, solutions, and problems dispatch, yes, to matriarchs. So it's a different kind of leadership, and we don't have balance, right? We don't have much of a balance. If we had more of both things, then we would leave we will have a better world. But it's not a good thing to have too much of one thing and very little of the other. I don't know. Do you agree with this? Or do you see it differently? Okay. Now, European inheritance. What's the legacy we have received from this organization? Take a look at the colonial Latin America. Okay. Most of it was structured around race, right? Racial. That could not be very economic because the ruling class, which were the kings in Spain, they kept all the riches, or most of them, that was stolen, or by pirates and so forth. And but the reality is that they kept this organization in which at the bottom they had indigenous and Africans that were sequestered or stolen from sub-Saharan Africa. Okay. Because in the northern part of Africa, as you know, you have Morocco, you have Egypt, you have some of these Semitic populations that were not stolen from their continent in order to be brought over to be subjected to slavery. So something similar also occurred in the British American colonial structure, and we all know that there's some factors, right? Some factors. Back in the day, back in the pre-colonial condition, you had either European settlers or non-Europeans. Then post-colonial ideals or ideologies started to establish, and there was either whiteness or racial mixture, right? Then this created present day values of a binary situation, which either you're white or you're black, and there is also the spectrum of the colored races, and that also translates to status of socioeconomic nature, in which you're either white or you're dark, and white is a privilege in first class, and the darker populations is second class, and treated like that. In our society, things seem to have progress, right? Seem to have progress because we don't have the Spaniards at the top of this pyramid anymore. And for the same reasons, we don't have the Sonians at the top of the pyramid either. And in American, they're gone. And that's why it's dangerous to have them back because of this pyramid. Because what comes under, you see, and the ruling class today is mainly the criollos, right? Okay. And then right under mestizos, mulattoes, and so forth. And this is also at the still occurs today. Okay. And this shapes our culture as well. Do you have any comments concerning this topic?
Hello, Professor.
Sure.
Ana Burgos here. just to contribute a little bit, because it's very interesting. I had read about this, the triangle pyramid that you are presenting. For example, here in Panama, when the people, the children, their parents were black, or African ancestries and indigenous, that mix of sambos, we can remember when the children were named as sambitos. Had you listened about that? Or you
Yes,
heard that?
yeah, I've heard
Okay,
that
and
mainly from Herrera, and
yes,
yeah,
yes, Azores Peninsula.
that's right.
Another, another, another interesting, because I read about this. Um, the professor, if someone it's interesting to read about it more, the professor Mario Molina from Chiriquí, he has a really good book about el problema del color en el Panamá colonial, 1501 a 1855 aproximadamente. Es un libro sumamente interesante. Habla sobre it explains about the contribution of our black ancestors in the construction of the defense sites during the colonial period. Explain a lot of information about how uh, they became to be freedom with their abilities, handcrafts, and a lot of things more. I can recommend this book. It's very interesting, and of course I can, when we see this, we can understand how was the colonization process. Probably the British American has not the same idea than us, than the Spaniards when they came to America. They were with another, I don't know, purpose probably, or well, the purpose was extend the territory. They were working in the extension of the territory from their own geographical territories, but um, it's very interesting. And also when the people, for example, if a mestizo got married or meet or contact with a mulatto, eh, you move back from your position. You move back, you descend in the position. That was incredible. That was incredible how they apply this kind uh, of style, colonization style. And if you get married with a black person, a white person, you move uh, ahead in your position in the society. It was incredible.
Mm.
That was my contribution, Professor.
Interesting, very good. So yeah, upward or downward mobility was not necessarily based on education. It was mainly a matter of color, because what mattered was racial segregational structure. Okay, we still have a lot of this, and this affects our culture, right? Because we still uphold outdated values from colonization, and many people still have a colonized mind. I've seen this comment in many places, is that colonization is not that colonization is a given fact or something that is happening. People's minds were colonized, and we need to help people change and evolve from these outdated mindsets into much more evolved and a more democratic and egalitarian type of beliefs and ideas, right? Eh, so you will see that these ideas are dangerous, because they create some beliefs that remain, and things change outside your country, but you still have the old mindset, and that's very negative, and that's why the country cannot progress. Is there anybody else who has an opinion here? Any other comment? Okay, so in sum, what this tells us is that we speak from our experience. What we say and the culture we display, also is influenced by who we are and where we come from. Okay, so we don't have to assume just because someone from Texas, for example, he speaks for all American people. That's not true. Just like one of you very wisely and in very intelligent opinion, you said that not everybody is the same. People are very diverse, and we have to understand that each one is entitled to his or her background or experiences, and they speak from that. Okay. So creating some categorization of the kinds of people we have, that respects social and economic structure. There is the precariat, right? And that's the British organization. And I refer to British now because this is where the United States comes from, okay? The United States is mostly structured in a similar way to what they have in the UK. So they have the precariat, the traditional working class, emergent service workers, technical middle class, new affluent workers, established middle class, and the elite. Is there a race for each one of these different groups? Definitely, I think so. But that will depend on the country. So thinking in terms of organization and structure, it's important to bear in mind that we have different groups, and that this organization here, it's a little bit more horizontal. Like it's not a pyramid. It's not vertical, like as going from top to bottom. But it is still lacking in terms of allowing people to move from one position to the other. There is no way we could say a precariat could become very quickly an elite member, or someone from a technical middle class can move on to become a new affluent worker very quickly. In some countries, I've detected that they measure that in generations. For example, I know the Colombians, they have this social mobility topic organized by generation. They say for someone to go from category A to category 3, that takes 4, 5 generations for a person to progress economically or socially up the mobility ladder. But when you talk to, for instance, Colombians in the street here, those who live here, they tell you all of that is not true. That they just do that to justify to people the way things are in their country. But this is part of the social dynamics and the situation in our country. We don't even have anything like this. No one will explain to you how it is possible for someone to be one class and not another, right? And that's why, for instance, most of the scholars at the university say that you are who you are because of the household and the social class you were born into, and that you inherit that social status, and henceforth also the economic status as well. So this is not something that you will necessarily move upward or downward at present. I'd like to know if you have any opinion concerning mobility, social or economic mobility. Okay, I'd like to ask you, do you think social or economic mobility is a topic connected to culture?
Well, in my opinion, yes, it is connected because uh, we are what our culture is, and we cannot practice mobility without having a culture. When I move to somewhere, I move with the culture. I move with my thoughts, my way of thinking, my way of acting, my way of speaking. So that's why I consider they are connected.
Thank you.
To agree with both of you. I will have kind of understanding of this socioeconomical mobility according to different cultures. Panama is an example of a variety of cultures living together with us, different nationalities, and I observe. I have to say that I always catch the fast socioeconomical improvement of internationals in Panama, and is something that you mentioned before and interesting. We have to think about that as Panamanians, okay? Nationals that some internationals come with a goal and with the project and with the plan. So maybe when you move to another country, you have that is the goal, to improve your socioeconomic situation. So it doesn't matter the nationality, maybe it matters the plan of that person. That's my part of contribution in this seminar, in today's seminar.
Thank you. Anybody else? So we have a series of variables here that help us know who we're talking to, okay? It has to do with their race and nationality. People who are binational, they have shared loyalties, right? Or maybe they prefer one over the other, and that defines the way they relate to society. If there is a caste system in that country, that's also a part of it, of that could be controversial position, maybe. Their religion, their ethnicity. A person may be one thing, but they feel their loyalty holds, or they belong to another group, and we'll never know where how they define themselves. We try to define them, or we think we can define them, but they are the ones who define who they are, and that determines their ultimate behavior. Ability, status, their sexuality is also a part of this. It's a set of variables, right? Person may be male, but he doesn't identify himself as a male. That's a part of this also. The skin color, indigeneity, gender, place, economic class, their race, and so on. So people speak according to what they feel they are. Okay, this is the way it works. So we have to talk about social linguistics also. Um, this is linked to what we are talking about. And why social linguistics? Because this is the way we use language in society, right? Language is used according to our gender, according to our age, and according to our status, essentially, right? Those are the factors. And according to theoretical social linguistics, there is essentially 4 main dimensions that we need to consider. Social distance or solidarity, so how far or how close I feel to a human or a group. Their status or power, okay, I have if I'm part of the ruling class, or if I'm of a lower class, or I'm in a middle class, that will also determine my narrative, the way I'll see the world. My formality level is also determined and affected by who I am. My function is who I am also, could be affective, maybe referential. I don't relate very closely to X idea or situation, so I don't really commit to any of those values, or I don't regard them as important or relevant for me in my situation. So this is the function. So it could be affective, by how I feel concerning. So there are 4 dimensions: distance, power, formality, and function. Okay, what is this about social distance? So this has to do with linguistic interaction. If I feel something's relevant for me or important, or I'm interested in this topic or theme or whatever, then I will probably commit and feel motivated, right? So, for instance, how well you know someone is one of the most important factors affecting the way you talk to them. And there's a good example here. You have 2 Paraguayans meeting in Paris. They will not speak in French, of course, and not even Spanish. They'll speak in Guarani in order to establish this solidarity, shared identity. So the less in common you have with someone, then you'll use a lingua franca or maybe some other language for communication. Vernaculars is like local, not international languages within a language, or maybe some shared subcultural form of communication, because it's not formal, may also occur in interactions, right? Standard forms often express distance. So the more formal you are with a person, it's because the less, the more distance there is, you see? The more social distance. If you're very informal, then you're more intimate, you're pretty close to that person, and you're less formal. Power or status. We speak according to the way our social identity is in a community. So if you're at the top of a multilingual community, you should have a very wide linguistic repertoire, because you are at the top, you are educated, right? And you have to speak the official language. So in the case of upper class Panamanian, is expected to speak Spanish properly, right? Proper Spanish. And if he or she speaks English, should speak also proper English, right? So in a monolingual community, the higher your social group, the more standard your way of speaking will be, okay? The language of the prestigious group is the standard dialect. So a prestigious group, for instance, during the day, back in the former Canal Zone, was standard American English. And Creole English and other forms was disregarded. And that's why they had their children separated at school and all of this, because they wanted to have everybody speak standard English, and they did not respect that there were other varieties of the language coming from other English-speaking countries. So for instance, I know from a book, from a thesis from Vilma Chiriboga, who's anthropologist at the University of Panama. She explains over there in this document that for the Canal Zone or Sonians or American station in the former Canal Zone, it was a problem to accept or acknowledge that Jamaica, Barbados, and Trinidad and Tobago were nations, because implied that they need to respect other forms of the language other than standard American English. So I don't know if you have any opinion concerning this topic. It would be very good for me to listen to some input from you regarding this topic on status. This thesis from Dr. Vilma Chiriboga is available through Google Scholar. And you can also get this document through Vice Rectory of Research and Graduate Studies here at the university. You can download it and read such an interesting document. I was using it for the writing of an article, and what I found there is amazing. So it wasn't just the segregation was race-based or racial in the former Canal Zone. This segregation was also linguistic, but there are very few records of this unless you start studying some documents. So if you have any opinions about this topic, please let me know.
I have a question about Jamaica, because if you look for information about their language, they say that their official language is English, no, British English. But what about their native language? Isn't it Creole? I have a doubt about it, because we talk about this in phonetics when we talk about native speakers of English, and some students would say, look, they don't speak English, they speak Creole. What do you think about it?
This is an important topic we'll be talking about, because look, languages are either official or not. And as it seems, for a country to be regarded as, for instance, non-EFL, so non-English as a foreign language area or zone of the world, for you to get out of that, you need to officialize English in your constitution. And when we talk about linguistic imperialism by Robert Phillipson, which is an interesting topic to discuss, we'll discover that also through Cacru's spheres of influence of the English language, that people who live in the ESL or EIL zones of the world, like English as a second language or English as an international language of communication, for you to be in those countries, you need to officialize English. Makes it's necessary. It seems to be a requirement to make English an official language, regardless of the fact that not all the population speaks the language officially or speaks it, fluently. For example, in Panama, as it seems, there is an estimated 14% of the population that speaks English. Okay, but English is official by law in this country. So we used to be a place where English was studied as a foreign language, not anymore. As it seems, we are in the area of English as an international language of communication, because ESL, that's getting outdated, really, because being a speaker of a second language doesn't mean anything. There isn't like speakers of a third language or a fourth language or a fifth language. Official linguistics, like in theory, establishes that you may speak 5 languages, but they're all your second language, because you have in one alone standing first language, which is your mother tongue, mother language, you know, and then you have your second language or second languages, but you don't have a third language, fourth language, or fifth language. So a lot of this has to do with perception and also connected to language policy in the country. As the curriculum turns a language official, a second language official in a country, then that language that country moves to a different category. But of course, these categories are only valid coming from the inner circle of BANA countries, which are, as we said before, British, Australian, and North American, that they decide if you belong or you don't belong to this other status. So a lot of this is connected to power. So once more, I cannot, recommend you enough this doctoral dissertation, because that's what the document is. A doctoral dissertation by Dr. Vilma Chiriboga. She also has a space in Radio Estéreo Universidad, so 107.7. And I enjoy very much listening to her contributions through the radio. And that is something any of us could sit down and enjoy. So much is learned through these golden nuggets that she gives out, because she did very extensive research of the what life was like in the former Canal Zone, right? From a very academic perspective. Okay. Formality, right? Official languages are the appropriate varieties for formal government interactions and state occasions. So how important it is for a language to be used. So I'd like to know, for example, when Mr. Rubio visited Mr. Muleno at El Palacio de las Garzas, I wish I knew if that meeting was held in English. Okay, considering Mr. Rubio's bicultural identity, because of course we all know he's American, but we also know that he's a Cuban American, just like present-day American ambassador Marino Cabrera is also a Cuban American. So I wish we had this gentleman speak in Spanish, right, for a Panamanian audience. So since that meeting was secret, as they keep many important things secretive because of the nature of those conversations, we will never know, because I don't think Mr. Molino speaks English very fluently either, and I'm not so sure about this. So vernaculars are the languages of informal interaction. Okay? In monolingual communities, vernacular forms are for casual talk, while the standards are for participation in formal situations like an interview or talking to a manager, something like that. Formal settings such as law courts, House of Assembly, Parliament, the president's desk also, they will require appropriate language. So I wish I knew if that meeting was in English or in Spanish, considering that there were many, or if they had an interpreter. I'd like to know that part. We'll never know because they are secretive, right? Secretive. Function. We have affective and referential. So I was telling you before, some interactions require you to have some care for the information you're presenting, right? Depending on the audience, if the audience is knowledgeable on the topic, you have to respect their intelligence, and you cannot offer them gossip, right? For instance, you need to offer them some formal information, such as, for instance, in this seminar, I cannot come to you and talk to you about some hearsay. I have to give you some academic information, so I must be careful to refer to at least one or two sources of information, or try to give the best I can in terms of offering, like, official information that's verifiable to some extent, such as in the case, for instance, of being an ESL or an EFL country. I think one of the things we're learning here is that, or we are learning here, is that, among others, is that you are not ESL or EIL as a country, according to BANA, inner circle, you are not until you make your country English, for example, official, unless you make English official in your country by law. We do have a law, so we are not an EFL country. No, not at all. Okay. Were you aware of this? Were you aware of what determined your a country's status as either EFL or ESL?
So what's our status?
We're an ESL EIL country. And the reason is because we have a law. English is an official country, it's an official language, sorry, in this country. I think it's Law 3 of 2003, if I'm not wrong. That was approved by the Panamanian Asamblea de Diputados. That was officially made official over there. As you all know, we have a law that makes English an official language. Any document drafted in English is valid, as if it were in Spanish. This is so by law. Were you aware of this?
I thought it was because they wanted to implement bilingual education, but not for official documents.
Yeah, it makes English official, and that created some discomfort among translators, because well, before it was necessary to translate all kinds of documents. At present, those documents in English, they're valid. If a lawyer invokes the right law, they don't have to translate. Okay, so it's important to be aware of this, and it makes English an official language also. Okay. Any other comment or question? Okay, so we have some universals about concerning social linguistics. Okay, I wish I could have found some image for this information, but it was not possible. So I have to list them, and it is text. So all speech communities have linguistic means of distinguishing a social relationship. Sorry about that. Unnecessary space. So all speech communities have linguistic means of distinguishing different contextual styles. Formality is an important dimension of analysis. All speech communities have linguistic means of expressing basic speech functions also. And all speech communities, language change implies language variation. So this is not static. This is something dynamic. It's always changing. And formality, solidarity, you know, all of this is a part of how we use language, how formal we should be, how informal it's necessary for us to be also. All that is determined by the situations. So this is part of an ongoing change, you know. And why is it changing? Because people change too, right? For example, in the United States, they never made English official as a language. Mr. Trump did it. He made English an official language in the United States. So the United States was open to different languages, but for nationality reasons, Of course, English is being established without a doubt as the official language of the country. But now they turn it official. It wasn't so for I don't know how many years, maybe over 200. But this is part of the language policy in a country, and it's something worth considering. Okay, I'm going to start moving into day 4 content concerning English language teaching. Before I get to that part, I'd like to know if you have any opinions about what we have discussed before about social linguistics.
Well, I would like just to talk about Panama. Actually, actually English became an official language a long time ago. We just have, I think it was, as you said, in 2003. I don't have the exact date. I know that it was in January. I don't remember the day, but anyway, the thing is that there is, this type of insisting that we have to teach English as a foreign language when English is already an official language in Panama. And you talk to anyone that teaches English, and he says that we teach English as a foreign language, but we have to be aware that it is an official language in Panama, and we have it as a second language and not a foreign language already because of the law establishes it as an official language and not as a foreign language. That's it. Thank you.
It's a very this is an interesting point, because no one's going to say that because private schools teach English as a first language in that school, this is illegal. Okay, no one's going to accuse them of doing something illegal, that they're breaking the law because they're using English fully in English, like books or materials or teachers who are native speakers. No one's going to accuse them of breaking the law because of a law that exists that promotes the teaching of English and makes the language official, right? They were also considering doing the same with other languages, but the problem is that these languages, are not really something people would be interested in learning. Take, for example, we have right there in the campus, Confucius Institute. Now, this sort of schools, Chinese Mandarin schools, they do exist, and they are all over, right? All over the world. I thought that was only something that was created for the university, but no, I realized as I was started checking out what it was. This is just like Cervantes School, right? This is a government sponsored, and it's spread all over the world. They want to encourage people to study Mandarin, but even that it's a difficult language, extremely distant from ours. I think that's what has somewhat created this invisible barrier, right, for studying this language. But also the fact that English has become a lingua franca, and that most of the Chinese who don't dwell in this part of the world already speak English, makes English a lingua franca for Chinese people also. Okay, so yeah, studying a language. They were considering making Mandarin also official, but that was not the case, right? I don't know what caused or created a resistance against that. Okay. Okay. Okay, if there aren't any further comments, I'm going to start talking about some cultural paradigms and English language teaching. And that takes me back to our iceberg, okay? Our iceberg, okay? When we talk about paradigms, cultural paradigms, we're talking about what is acceptable, what's regarded as so good, right? So observable behaviors is that things that we normally see, but we don't know why they're the way they are, right? And then there's some factors that will impact that kind of behavior. And you have values underneath, right? Learned ideas, what is good or bad, right or wrong, desirable or undesirable, acceptable or unacceptable, etc. So, for example, when they made a decision of turning Panama a country where English is official as a language, they turned also, they probably they did not think much about Spanish, right? We also speak an important language. It's an important language, and it's also part of our identity and our heritage. This is our culture also. So we probably did not think much about it because in the United States, for example, they would not make Spanish official. So well, we make English official here. And then you see the asymmetry, right? That some languages are more important than others for economic and social reasons. And for political reasons, I think it was also convenient for the country to make such a decision also. So that's the non-observable part of the process, where you have a lot of the history, the media, the policy, and the economy and employability impacting decisions made, right? I think the existence of a law for the creation of call centers in Panama also influenced that decision of making English official as a way to promote employment among the youth, right? Which is the population that would generally attend these venues, this kinds of business. So this is something also important for English language teaching, or ELT, because what happens with us is largely influenced by forces beyond our control. So, for example, the American status as a superpower, or the BANA countries being so important and industrially and technologically ahead of the rest of the world. No, not disregarding China and Asia and other parts of the world, of course, but they're still at the very much ahead. That influences decisions and causes people to make some languages more important than others, right? So we end up talking about an Anglosphere. I'm going to be more visual here because this is probably more interesting than giving you text. So the Anglosphere. An Anglosphere is the whole English-speaking world. But if we think about it, we should know that this encompasses one language, but many different cultures, okay? And one language, okay? So we need to be very open, and we need to develop some cultural competence that is in this regard more intercultural than anything. And the reason why we say intercultural competence is because it's one language, English language, which has different varieties. It would be received pronunciation, standard American English. Those are the main two educated varieties, but there's this whole array of others that are disregarded, not because I say so, but because literature refers to them as such as non-educated varieties of the language, right? That they refer to kind of substandard. do it this way in the literature. Personally, I'm more inclined to the post-colonial vision of culture, in that countries such as Nigeria, Kenya, India, uh, Hong Kong, places like South, not South Africa, but other parts of Africa, um, where English was spoken. There, these cultures are valid, and their language variety, or the variety of English is valid too, right? So just like I was telling you, that for the Sonians, it was a problem to have this descendants of uh, West Indian canal workers, because of the existence of these new nations in the Caribbean, because that made their Creoles official also, and they did not want to get in that problem. They segregated populations because they wanted to impose their variety of English. Um, this is an example, a clear example of the problem or the tension created by having different cultures and one language. Different cultures and one language. I don't know if you have an opinion concerning this. Do you think, do you agree with me that it is possible to have one language and different cultures? What do you think?
Yeah, of course, Professor. Of course, I agree because all that countries has different backgrounds. They have different colonization process. They have their own identity as a nation. For example, if they were trying to reinforce their traditions, or um, uh, take care of what they were before the colonization, and try to make a connection with its history, all that it's involved in the culture. How was the separation or the independence process from that colonized countries? And yes, of course, the I consider also that affects the culture is uh, it's the how is the movement of the population? How is the uh, the this the social part of the population? How is the yes all of this is culture, but the geographical position, the connection with another countries. For example, here in Latin America, or as you mentioned, the position of the canal zone, a lot of people today ask about the why we don't have more Panamanian people speaking English. It is a question that I had listened in these years. Why? Why? We had the canal zone here, the former canal zone. We were in contact, or we had been in contact with, for many, many years, with another cultures or another populations that speak English. Why we don't have more people? Then I consider, or in my opinion, it's because the former canal zone was a separate place from Panama. It wasn't. It was another. It was a state from U.S. here, but it was separate from Panama. And the total idea, was not um, probably make a big mixture with a population or connection. Yes, we had connections, but it was not the idea. They were into the canal zone, and also the workers were here at the Canal Zone, and later they moved to front zones of the country. But for example, the Americans, the people that was coming from US, probably the purpose was not mixed with the people from Panama. It is my idea. But the situation and also the segregation existed into the Canal Zone, and the gold roll, the silver roll, how they were separated, segregated the silver roll workers, because it is another social situation into the Canal Zone. It was the separation, the social situation between the people from the Canal Zone and the people outside the Canal Zone, and also the situation between the people into the Canal Zone, between these two groups. And well, it is part of the culture. It contribute to construct our culture, and it is the history. History also is culture too. And probably when we see all these nations, and as you mentioned, we should be open if we are teachers, or we are a country that is in contact, and we are going to continue to be in contact with different nations in the next years, because it is part of our geographical and strategic position. Of course, we need to be open and prepare the future generations to be open for this topic about culture and language.
Thank you very much. This was an interesting reflection. Exactly.
Well, well, everything is historical, actually, Anna. My mom was brought up in Colón. She's from Bocas del Toro. She was brought up in Colón, but during her time, when she was younger, there was a period in which the English language was considered part of the what they call the Yankee imperialism. And then when we started, when we got, I think, Mr. Torrijos in power, the teaching of the English language in schools, in primary schools, was stopped because of historical reasons and because it was part of the imperialist domination during that time. So that's why it was stopped. And then later on, the English resurrected, I think, during some years ago, that they officialized the language in 2003. So that, I mean, history is part of our history, and we cannot erase it. That's what it is.
This is another wonderful reflection. Thank you very much. Anybody else? Okay, so where is all of this taking us? This is all taking us to the diversity. You see, the diversity, the cultural diversity. So we would learn the American way because it's probably the better studied or the better known, as Professor Marisol mentioned, part of a shared history. But we have to be open also to many other cultural varieties or ways of behaving, and not condemning or pointing or labeling other cultures because they're different. Everyone is entitled to his or her culture, but of course, there are ways for us to consider what is good, what is not good about something, but we need to respect. Above all is give respect and get respected, become respected. Okay, so this is the Anglosphere. At a given time, the British Empire ruled over 25% of the world, right? Even more than the Roman Empire that only ruled Europe, that was had a much smaller population back then. But by the time the British rose to power, then there were millions and millions of inhabitants in the world, and they were ruling America, the Caribbean, also Africa, and well, Asia as well, and I think probably even sections of the Middle East. So what this created is English became the language of communication of many people, and it's a lingua franca, and state state affairs, economic affairs, all of that occurred in English. Of course, we can also speak about the asymmetries, which is the ugly part, because there's about everything. There is the good, the bad, and the ugly. As the one you brought in very precisely, there was this separation, right? The canal, for example, going back to this, is it was an American project, not a Panamanian project. That's why not Panamanians were not a part of it. Okay, and that's why we were left out, and you don't see that many Panamanians speaking English nowadays. As it was, it could be assumed that we would be speaking English in this country. It was more of an American project. Okay, identity. It's important to know that one thing is what we people think about ourselves, and another thing is how we are perceived by others. The same thing happens, for example, with Americans and British people, just to provide an example here. Okay. So whereas an American may think that we embody the best of the world, and we are an example of what life, the way to live life. We're competitive, friendly, we're loud, we're hardworking. Well, for instance, you may have a British person disregarding many of these things, and then okay, and they may consider, some pushy, maybe loud, too loud, maybe somewhat confident but arrogant, just like that. You see, so it's important also to consider what other people think of us. Yesterday, I was watching on TV Jeffrey Sachs, and it seems Mr. Trump got very upset about what Jeffrey Sachs was saying. If you are interested in what Jeffrey Sachs said about American people, you should look for that in YouTube or elsewhere in media, and you'll discover that he was saying that for Americans to rule the world, they'll have to realize that Americans are only 4% of the world population, that ruling the world is not possible for only 4% of the population. That also he said some other interesting things, such as that the United States will have to understand its position and negotiate, that other parts of the world will catch up. Okay. Other countries like China, well, China is already probably a little bit further, but other parts of the world will also catch up, and that cooperation is necessary in order to survive. That it is not possible to have like an only superpower. And this is good for the world, I think. Now, if they don't understand it, they're going to create a nuclear war. That's the thing. That's the possible outcome of all of this. But if they do understand, probably the world is going to be a little bit more open, right, than it is right now. So yes, identity plays an important role. Now, concerning identity, I brought this because I think it's very good that we talk about ideals, right? Before we're over for today's session, I think this is probably the last topic I'm going to touch with you today. we have in books in the ELT industry, that's where we have the idealized version of the English language. And that is connected to the authors and the editors of these publishing houses. They offer you a version, their vision of society and their culture, right? And they're gonna, portray, show you what they think is only good, you see? But the reality is that there is always the bad and the ugly, and there is the ugly American too. But they will, of course, you will know that if you care and you do research on the topic, or you decide to travel and know things a little bit better on your own, and you'll discover that not everything is beautiful, that there is a lot of bad and also ugly. And above all, now with under Mr. Trump, if you forgive me if you are a Mr. Trump follower, we're discovering the ugliest part, okay? The ugliest. So this is good material for reflection. And it's around 11:50, if I'm not wrong. I don't want to go any further because I'm going to go deeper into teaching, and I'm going to touch on a topic that is very interesting. This is native speakerism, right? Native speakerism. Right? Many people think that for a good teacher, to be an excellent teacher, you have to be a native speaker. Okay, I strongly believe that there are benefits and there are also shortcomings from having a native speaker as an instructor. Okay, I remember probably on Wednesday or maybe Tuesday, I was talking to you about ELS centers in the States that they work with universities, and what they do is that they offer a variety of non-native speaker instructors at the lower levels for learners to see that it is possible to speak English well without being a foreign person or someone born in one of these only English environments. That in the higher levels, then they start bringing in a variety of native speakers, but they won't give you only one native speaker version with one cultural background. They offer you variety. As for you to know that when you go to the university, you'll run into British professors, Swiss, I don't know, probably Germans, maybe Russians. You're gonna have diversity. Okay. For many of them in the States, they just don't like it. They don't like it. And I think that's part of the tension Mr. Trump is having with Harvard and Columbia. He doesn't like the idea of having all of these foreign people going at these elite level universities. But the reality is that without this influx of foreign faculty members, non-native speakers, as well as having these foreign students in the States, those universities would not be international as they are right now and so successful. Personally, I had so many foreign, non-native English speaking professors at the university. Okay. The linguistics department, for example, at UIUC, where I attended, it's mostly international. Probably they have one or two Americans over there. And I don't know, probably they didn't like that. I don't know. But even the president of the university of UIUC back then, it was a Chinese person, Chinese, or someone with Chinese heritage, but very, very strong Chinese heritage, who's a non-native speaker. And this is okay in many parts of the world. So probably we'll have to start thinking differently, right? probably not in our university, but who knows what the future holds. So this is the case. So Professor Marisol, I have some more material, but I think I'm gonna be short on time, and I don't want to go over the time limit, which is 12. So I'm closing my session over here for us to talk about native speakerism tomorrow. So you let me know if you have any announcements to make. Or you'd like to close the session right now. As of now, it's already 11:50, no, 11:52, 53.
Yes. Well, I just would like to thank you and for sharing so much knowledge. There is a lot of information that we learned today. I was like, wow. Thank you very much. And we're stopping right now. And tomorrow, remember, we are going to start at 8. Some people are coming in later. And remember to sign in for your attendance and also to do your assignments in classroom. Professor Raphael is sharing his material and the assignments that you have for tomorrow and the ones that you have had this week. If you have not done them, please do your assignments. Well, God bless you all. Have a nice day, and we'll see you tomorrow at 8 o'clock.
Thank you very much. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
See you.
Bye-bye. See you tomorrow. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Bye. See you tomorrow.
Bye. See you. Raphael, would you stop sharing? Thank you.